जी स्टार्ट कर दीजिए.
सदाशिव समारंभां शंकराचार्यं मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनर्पुनः. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ये कौन सी वर्सेस
जी 24 to 28.
24. उत्सीदेयुरिमे लोकः नासूयां कर्म चेदहं शङ्करस्य च कर्ता स्याम् उपहन्यामि मा प्रजः सक्ता कर्मण्यविद्वांसः यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद् विद्वांस्तथा सक्तः किङ्केषु लोकसङ्ग्रहम्. न बुद्धिभेदं जनेत् अज्ञानां कर्मसङ्गिनां दोषयेन् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तसमाचरन् प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ता अहमिति मन्यते तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्ते इति मत्वा न सज्जते.
वेरी गुड. बहुत ही अच्छा. एक्सीलेंट. कीप इट अप.
ट्राई की है अपनी तरफ से.
बहुत अच्छा, बहुत अच्छा. वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड. यस सो 27th verse we concluded last class. The verse says, all actions are a product of, are born of, are due to gunas. And gunas are a classification of matter, prakriti. Matter we understand only as the inert aspect, but prakriti is much more encompassing. Even the realms that are not contactable by the senses, but they are inferable because Shastra Vidya, the rishis, have all, due to contemplation, have traced back the origin of the entire manifest world, first into its own unmanifest state, for a simple reason. Logically speaking, nothing can be seen or manifested. You cannot have a pratyaksha jagat. You cannot have a world, cross world of objects and beings, unless and until they have a origin into their own previous state. So, in other words, the whole Jagat, to especially the Vedantic thinkers, accepted is it's a Nama Rupa. The entire world is nothing but Nama Rupa. Because it is Nama Rupa, means there is a form which can be recognized as a form, a limited form, separate from another form, and that form has a name which corresponds to that object. So a contactable object has a name. So the entire world is contactable, is perceivable, is experienced. All of this jagat, what we call as jagat, where has it come from? Where did it have a manifestation? How does it have a manifestation? While we try and figure things from the gross perspective, as is seen, pot has come from clay. So, where has clay come from? Earth. Up to the point of sensory realm, whatever we can trace back so far, contactable in senses, is helpful through science also. It helps us go backwards. What will you perceive? What do you see? And how much can they trace back? But Shastra Vidya traces everything that's contactable as an effect. It's an effect. Effect means it's produced. It is come about. And whatever is an effect cannot be having a, let me rephrase this. Whatever is an effect must have a cause behind. The karya cannot be separated from, independent of its karan. So there is a sambandha between karya and its karan. Karya karana is sambandha, is always there. An effect has to have a cause. Now, this cause has been attributed to, if you say the whole world, as we saw in the last class, if you characterize it by three things: capacity to know, capacity to act, and a capacity to do neither, just exist without awareness, without consciousness, without recognition, without function, without activity, without knowing, but existing. That is, if these are the characteristics of manifest world, then where is it stemming from? Where does it come from? That Shastra traces it into Mahat, into the vastness is added. And that vastness means the entire cosmos. And not just cosmos that we perceive now. Puranas give us the whole cycle of Jagat. How many times it has its utpatti, it has its sthiti, and it has a pralaya, and then it has an utpatti, it has a sthiti, it has a pralaya, and it has manifold such life cycles, which includes how many billion years of earthly existence, earthly sun rising and sunset, which will amount to one day of, say, Brahmaji. And that one day of Brahmaji means he will have so many years before the Srishti takes complete pralaya. All this cycle, काल का जो चक्र है, that is deduced very accurately by contemplators of the past. This Prakriti is the very adhishtan of every activity, whenever, wherever, classified into Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The entire realm of waking, even dream, of course, but we'll restrict ourselves to waking. The entire realm of waking, Jagrat Avastha, whatever we do here, if we have an identification with these gunas, we get deluded and believe ourselves to be the origin of that characteristic. मैं, so if there is knowledge, मैं जानती हूँ. If there is karma, मैं करती हूँ. If there is no desire to do anything, मैं हूँ, but कुछ नहीं करना, etc. This identification, deluded thinking, is from deluded thinking. What is deluded thinking? ये जो गुणों में हो रहा है, ये मैं हूं. And that is ahankar, which another word we say is jivatva buddhi. Identified to this limited form here. My height, my weight, my color, whatever I see in the mirror, I cannot see myself fully also. When I see in the mirror, I recognize, acha, this is my form, this is my height, this is my color. To some extent, height, certainly you need a mirror for. Weight, you certainly need scales for, etc. That identification with these characteristics, if one doesn't have a complete jnanam, purna gyan, purna vidya, which is atma vidya, in the absence of atma vidya, there is no way of understanding that this gunas is not me. Means, as long as I am deluded by the gunas, I believe that I am this, identified with the form. But contrast is 28th verse. Who is that तत्वविद जो जानता है? तत्व को जानने वाला तत्वविद. What is that तत्व? आत्म तत्व, ब्रह्म तत्व. उस आत्म तत्व को जानने वाला, the knower of Atma, the knower of Atma Gyan, I am that Atma. O Mahabaho, O Arjun, is able to separate the gunas and the karmas. गुण और कर्म विभागयोः. विभागयोः means उसको separate them. Gunas and karmas, they can separate it. That's the first point. When we when we say separated, obviously not physical, mentally, they recognize the characteristics of whatever is being done, what is the origin of that characteristic, which is expressing itself as a physical experience. They are able to recognize that. Ye belongs to this belongs to this belongs to this. So if there is a ferocious tiger chasing um, an animal for its satiation of hunger, tiger's gunas would mean that that ferociousness is very part of tiger. Tiger cannot be unless and until it's ferocious. A cow will not be ferocious, etc. Tracing it in its own respective nature. Swabhav is gun ka. Once you're able to learn to trace what you perceive and see in the world to its respective guna, उसके अपने स्वभाव के साथ जब आप आइडेंटिफाई कर लेते हो, then the ahankar is not a part of it. So guna guneshu vartante. They understand the second thing. First thing is guna and karma vibhagayoho. ये कर्म इन गुणों से आता है. Next, they can rest content because guna guneshu vartante. Gunas only abide in their respective gunas. इति मत्वा, ऐसा जानते हुए, जानकर, न सज्जते, they don't get identified, जुड़ते नहीं हैं, संयुक्त नहीं होते, attach नहीं हो जाते, they don't become one with the gunas. So in other words, the tattvavit is one who is able to clearly see, recognize that the entire Jagrat Avastha is resting in its own, is showing activity based on Prakriti. That Prakriti, what it is, we'll see a little in details now, but they clearly know that this Prakriti is moving in its own counterparts. How? We'll see that now. And that their Swarup, their basic I, is separate from this. It's not affected by this, is not touched by this. In fact, they have this knowledge, guna guneshu vartante, which means I am not it. So if the gunas are showing certain characteristics, they know for sure कि गुणों के साथ उन्हें विचलित नहीं होना. They don't have to be identified with the gunas. गुना अपनी स्वभाव देख रहे हैं, अपना स्वभाव, अपना एक्सप्रेशन दे रहे हैं. They are separate from it. That, how is that? With the help of Tattva Bodh, I thought for those who have done it can be revision, but for those who have not done, it could be worthwhile. Understanding guna guneshu vartante. What is gunas abiding in gunas? Can you see the other slide now? Yeah, okay. This is a portion from Tattvabodh. We are just revising it. It will help us understand. Guna guneshu vartante. What is the gunas? What is Prakriti? We saw Prakriti is Sattva Rajas Tamas. So, what is this Prakriti? The portion starts first from Atha Chaturvimshat. There should be something else before. Hmm. We'll start from here. What is Atma? The definition, in a way, Atma cannot be defined, but the Lakshanas. Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha. It is separate from, entirely distinct and separate from. From what? The three Shariras. What are the three Shariras? The three bodies. Sthula Sharira. Sthula Sharira is gross body, which is this physical structure. Khambe, I call them. Khambe hai ye. This entire physical body is a khamba. Sukshma Sharira, your Antakarana. Khamba is the frame. In that frame, there is this Antakaranam, which is in the form of, at this point, let's keep it as thoughts. Definitions are there, but we'll keep it as thoughts. Mano Buddhi Chit Ahankar, that's Antakaranam. And Karana Sharir, the causal body. So you have the gross body, which is the frame. You have the subtle body, which is your mind and intellect and ahankar and memories and reflected part of the consciousness within that I, that whole unit in which you identify as main hu, this individual. That whole thing is Sukshma Sharir. That when you sleep, it goes into unmanifest state, remains without correction of one's nature, but that where it remains unmanifest is the current Sharir. Vyatiriktaha. Atma is separate from that. Another Lakshana was Panchakosha Atitaha San. Remaining Atitaha, beyond. The Panchakosha. The five sheath, when you put a sword in a sheath, so you separate the sword and the sheath. So, as if to say, Atma is superimposed at five different levels. Annamaya Kosha, which is your gross body, Pranamaya Kosha, which is your pranas, the five pranas, Manomaya Kosha, which is your mind, Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is your intellect, and Anandamaya Kosha, which is your current Sharir, where all this rests and you wake up to say, oh, it was so peaceful. That Anandam that you experience there, which is peace. Panchakosha Atitaha. It's separate from this five. Third Lakshana is Avasthatraya Sakshi. It is the Sakshi, just a neutral observer, just a observer, untouched, unidentified, without condition, without condition, any condition. It's a neutral observer. Sakshi of what? Avastha Traya. The three states. What are the three states? Your waking, your dream, and the absence of the waking and the dream, which in normal parlance is called the deep sleep. But let's just keep it at this for now. The three states. It's a sakshi of the cycle of your waking up and sleeping and waking up and sleeping. In other words, we are interacting now in the waking state. After some time, we go to sleep, then we dream, then we wake up again. ये जो रोज what we call as rose also on waking up every day that we wake up also. Atma is a Sakshi of it, untouched by all this. Whether there is war happening here, whether there is a cyclone happening here, whether people are losing lives, whether people are gaining fruits, whether there is all kinds of whatever's happening here. In dream, whatever's happening in your dream, whether you are garlanded, you're winning a Nobel Prize, whether you are chased by a tiger, anything happening in the dream. And even that so called absence of waking and dream in the sleep, that you say, I slept well, when you wake up, and that avastha where there was blankness, as if Atma is free of all these, all the three. It is untouched. Just as the closest example that is possible to convey this is on a screen when you see a movie. A movie cannot be seen without the screen. But means, in other words, absence of a screen, you cannot project a movie. For projection of the movie, screen has to be there. But whatever is happening on the screen, whatever is happening on the screen in the movie, the screen has nothing to do with it. Screen is not touched by it. Nothing happens. That Sakshi, it is in the form of Sat Chit Ananda Swarupaha. Its eternal nature is through the three states, through Panchakoshas, through Sthula Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, through all this, its inherent natural state in which it remains eternally, changelessly, is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Pure existence, unconditioned knowledge, and unconditioned, unlimited Ananda. There is no other. That sun, yaha tishtati, that yaha, where one remains, that saha, atma, that is atma, that which one remains in Satchidananda Swarupaha, that is atma. Now, to understand this, what is the relation? In between, there were certain portions, but what is the relation between this Atma and this universe? If Atma is Vyatiriktaha, then what is this, what we are contacting? To understand this, Shastras have given us a model. It's a model. Model means it helps us to appreciate, quieten our mind and intellect, curiosity to know where has this Jagat come from. In Mananam, it has, through this prakriya, through this methodology of explanation, we are able to negate our identification in the world. So, what is that prakriya is here given? Atha, now, Chaturvimshati, 24. Tattva Utpatti Prakaram. तत्व में से जो उत्पत्ति हुई है, the evolution of the 24 factors, we will now explain. Means the text will now come up with what are these 24. First and foremost, Brahma Ashraya, Sattva Rajas Tamo Gunatmika Maya Asti. We said Prakriti is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That Prakriti, another term sometimes is taken as Maya. What is this Prakriti? What is this Maya? It is Brahma Ashraya. Brahma Ashraya means entirely dependent on Brahman. What is the nature of this movie? How are you able to see a movie? Entirely dependent upon the screen. Even if a producer has made a movie, spent a lot of money, everything has happened perfect, but they do not have a projecting screen. The whole movie is useless. You can't see it. Brahma Ashraya. Ashraya means what? Jahan Sharanam hai, where it resorts. Uska Sharanam kahan hai? Ashraya. Maya ka, which is of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas Gunatmika, of the nature of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas Gunas, it has its Ashraya in Brahman. That Maya, from that Maya. So, Brahman, from Brahman, its own component, non separate from it, is Maya. What is that Maya now? From that Maya, Tataha, from that Maya, Akashaha Sambhutaha. Space is Sambhutaha. Produced is a terrible word, वैसे तो, but okay, fine. In English, we can say it. Bhutaha comes into being. Sambhutaha, it comes into being. From Maya, Akasha, space, Akash comes into being. From Akash, Akashat comes Vayu. Vayoho Tejaha. From Vayu, Tejaha, fire. From air, fire. Tejas Apaha. From fire, water. Adbhyaha Prithvi. And from waters, that's the plural, from waters, Prithvi, earth. So, Brahman is non contactable, is pure existence, Satchitananda Swarupaha, but it has no upadhi. Upadhi means it has no layer, it is pure. But to us, all of us, who's now in the world with ahankar, with ye karna hai, wo karna hai, all of us, this prakriya is given to us, who's already established in the world with a sense of individuality. To explain to us that Brahman is your Swarupam and freed of all this Prakriti, it posits Maya first, Shakti. We saw that Parameshwari Shakti. It is a Shakti. Brahman ki Shakti, what in English gets translated as energy. Like in the, okay, I won't go there first. Stick to this. It is Brahman ki Shakti. That Shakti is Trigunatmika, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. It is non separate from Brahman. From that Shakti, first comes Akasha. From Akash, Vayu. From Vayu, Tejas. From Tejas, Apaha. From Apaha, Prithvi. Brahman, Maya, that Maya evolute as if, means Udbhava hai. Evolution, if you go by the word, it means it has evolved. It's not an evolution. Udbhava, it is produced is the closest word. It's come to being, it's come to manifestation. From Maya is space. From space is air, fire, water, earth, ek ek karke, it keeps coming down. From these 5 tattvas now, the 5 evolutes are tanmatras, pancha bhutas, still unmanifest. You can't contact them. They are the first produced 5 elements, but they are in their pure form. They cannot be contacted still. But from there comes what? From these 5, between the Akasha, from Akasha, it's Sattvic Amsha, they're all Gunatmika. In its balanced state, Prakriti, it is unmanifest. Now, as it starts to have expression coming into being, coming into formation, as it comes into being, Akasha Sattvic Amsha. From the Sattvic component of Akasha, Shrotra Indriya Sambhutam. Your Shrotra Indriya, not the physical ear, but the Indriya, your capacity to hear, the Shakti to hear, Jan Sunne ki Shakti. Shrotra Indriya Sambhutam has now come into formation, has now come into expression. From Vayu and its Sattvic Amsha, Tvak Indriya, skin. From Agni and its Sattvic Amsha, Chakshu Indriya, Indriya, the capacity to see. Tvak Indriya, the capacity to feel. When air is there, you feel it through skin. From Jalasya Sattvic Amsha, from water, Rasana Indriya, your capacity to taste. Rasana. Prithivyaha Sattvic Amshat, Gran Indriya, your capacity. This is a error I corrected. I don't know which slide I'm opening. I did make a correction. Granindriya, to smell. So from the 5 Pancha Tattvas, each one of them has one Indriya from their respective Sattvic component. Indriya kahan hai? Now, Indriya is a part of Antakaranam. It's not here in the body. Antakaran hai ye aapka, Indriya. Each element, the Sattvic element, has given rise to organs, not organs, I call them sense of perceptions, because organ tends to give us the gross meaning. It's your sense, the Shakti of organs of perception, knowledge, Gyan Indriya, what we call them. Etesham Panchatattvanam, of all these 5 subtle elements, Samashti Sattvic Amshat, from the total Sattva of all the 5 elements, comes the Antakaranam, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chitta, Antakaranani Sambhutani. Again, spelling mistake, Ahankara. Samashti Sattvic Amshat, Mano Buddhi Ahankar. So from total Sattva of all the 5 elements comes the Antakaranam. If you see here, Brahman from Maya, space, air, fire, water, earth, 1 down, and all of them are Sukshma Pancha Tattva Bhuta. I'm quite sure I've opened the wrong slide, because over here I have slashed Tanmatras. They're also called Tanmatras. So, now what about the Rajas? Are we all together so far?
Ji, Dipti ji.
Okay. So what have we come to so far?
Yes, sir.
We have come.
Sorry?
What have we come so far? We have come to understand Prakriti and its total Sattvic component, the Guna. But expressing up to the point of antakaran with the sense of perception. This much so far. Now, of these five tattvas, the rajasa amsha, vak indriya, sambhutam, your organ, speech, sense of speech, vak indriya, from vayu and its rajasamsha has come pani, hands, come to being, hands. Vahdehe rajasamsha, pad indriya, from fire, feet. The rajasic component of fire, feet. From means sense of ambulation, not feet, sense of ambulation. Pad indriya. Indriya means always sense, capacity, shakti. चलने की शक्ति. चलने की शक्ति पैरों से अलग है. चलने की शक्ति. Better said in Hindi. चलने की जो शक्ति है, that comes from the rajasic component of fire. Then jalas, from water, the rajasic component of water, upastha indriya, your capacity to procreate. From prithvi, rajasamsha, gudendriya, your capacity to evacuate. That sense of evacuation, that rajasa amsha of prithvi. Etesham, of all these total samashti rajasa amsha, from total rajas comes the pancha pranas, the five pranas, prana, apana, samana, udana, prana, apana, samana, udana, and I'll come back. One of them. Okay. So this is from the Rajasic Amsha. Space, air from the Rajasic, fire, water, earth. And total Rajasic Amsha is your prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana. Correct. Thank you. Vyana, udana. The total is pancha pranas of the Rajas. Now what about the tamas? Etesham panchatattvanam, of the same five elements, subtle still. You can't see thoughts, you can't touch thoughts, you can't feel thoughts, and as in like you feel air. These are all still subtle. But from the subtle tamasic element, now a process starts happening. It's the tamas which starts to modify. And what is that process? Panchi karanam is called. Panchikrit panchatatvani. So these five elements, the subtle, they go through a process of division. Just as an amoeba divides into two, and then each one divides further, the tamasic component, amsha, of the total tanmatras, subtle elements, now goes through modification, goes through change. That change is called panchikaranam. It's very specific process. How they have arrived is fascinating. Obviously, by sheer observation of things. Panchikaranam, what is that panchikaranam? Of these pancha mahabhutas, subtle elements, which are of tamasa swarupam, tamasa amsha swarupam, ekam ekam bhutam, each of them, dvividha vibhajya, dvividha vibhajya, they separate into two. Each component separates into two. Then ekam ekam ardham prithak. Then each of them, one half remains as is, and the other half of it, aparam param ardha chaturdha vibhajya. Each of the other half component divides into four. So one component remains the same, the other half divides into four. Swa ardha manyeshu ardheshu swabhaga chatushtaya sanyojanam karyam. Now, each of these four parts that has been divided, of that one each of the part goes and joins with the other four. So they share with the other four. Now, what is that? Say, take the example of space, subtle space. Divides into two. When it divides into two, one half remains the same. The other half goes through four divisions. And then same thing happens with space. Subtle air, subtle fire, subtle water, subtle earth. Pancha Mahabhut. They are called Mahabhut. Mahabhut means the great elements. Still unmanifest. They have not gone through Panchikaranam. Once that Panchikaranam starts, each of these five elements shares with each other one fourth of each other, again making it complete. So when it comes to space, the subtle space, when it has gone through grossification, the tamasic element has gone through Panchikaranam, you have now in space, which is the predominant half, is still space. In that predominant half, it will have air, fire, water, earth. In air, what will it be? The predominant will be earth, 50% is air, 50% is air. But the rest of them, for each component, space, fire, water, earth. In the same way happens with all the five elements. So finally what we have got, Panchikaranam, this Panchikrit Panchamahabhutebhyaha. These Panchikaranam of the Panchamahabhutas of its tamasic element, Sthula Shariram Bhavati. This is the Sthula, gross world. जो स्थूल प्रकृति है, we call it Sthula Prakriti. What is this Sthula Prakriti? Sthula Sharir. It is now contactable. By what? By the subtle Indriya, its respective Indriya. Evam Pinda. Pinda means this individual, Chota. Brahmanda, the total cosmos. Aikyam, Sambhutam. You establish the oneness between the individual and the cosmos, which means, what is this gross body made up of?
Elements, five elements.
Of which five elements?
Air, water,
Okay. Yes.
Fire. The same elements which Maya gave birth to, or through which Maya created those elements.
Okay. But the sthula is the tamasic guna of Maya, which has undergone the modification, Panchikaranam, and that has become the gross world. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, now it is.
Now it is? Okay. I'll repeat
After your last
sentence.
last line.
That is what. Tamasic amsha, correct. That's what was the last part. Now, once again, let me just go through this, because this is where you see guna guneshu vartante. What does a jnani feel? What does a jnani know? Gunas will abide in gunas. What does that mean? The entire srishti which we are so involved with. Here, this gross body, my gross body, your gross body, this whole gross world is actually the tamasic guna, the mahaguna, the, the tanmatra, the subtle element, uncrossified yet, जिसकी पंचीकरणम नहीं हुआ है, वो subtle element. पंचीकरण के बाद each of this subtle elements has 1/4 of the other gross or other elements, also subtle elements, and that makes it now gross, which means gross means sthula, means contactable. मगर हर गुण में, हर ग्रॉस जो आपको दिख रहा है उसमें बाकी गुणों का भी अंश है, but it is just as a part of it. The predominant part is what it is mainly made up of. स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी, जो इस स्थूल शरीर को मैं कह देता, अभिमान करता है, जीव नामकम, he is called a जीवा. Who is a जीवा? जो इस स्थूल शरीर का अभिमानी है, I, arrogator of the स्थूल शरीर. What is it? This जीवा Brahma Pratibimbam Bhavati. He is a Pratibimb, a reflection of Brahman. Brahman with Maya has evolution, come to being and grossified as the world. But all along, you saw that line, Brahman remains as Brahman, doesn't undergo change. In this way, स एव जीवः प्रकृत्या स्वस्मात्, अपने आप को जीव, सस्मात्, अपने आप को, this जीव that has come to now be recognized as through sthula sharira, abhiman, this jiva swasmat ishwaram bhinnatvena janati, knows themselves to be separate from Ishvara. Jiva, Ishvara are separate. ये जानने वाला क्या है, कौन है? अविद्या उपाधि सन. He is Atma, remaining as Atma, but now the identification has been with avidya. अविद्या से जुड़ के ये अपने आप को आत्मा को जीव कह रहा है, इति उच्यते. Identified with non-understanding of Atma, not knowing I am Atma, जुड़ गया इस स्थूल शरीर से, सूक्ष्म शरीर से, अपने आप को जीव मानने लगा, और ये जीव लिमिटेड टू दिस फॉर्म है एंड ईश्वर से भिन्न है, ऐसा आत्मा को जीव कहने लगा. What is the separation? In thought, avidya upadhi is jiva upadhi, based in avidya. Maya upadhi, maya upadhi san, ishvara ichyate. So if you see Brahman with non-separate maya, but maya as an expression, that maya, Brahman with maya upadhi, is called Ishvara. Jiva with avidya upadhi or Atma with avidya upadhi is called Jiva. Brahman with maya upadhi is Ishwar. Evam upadhi bhedat. There's only a difference in upadhi, not in the swarupa. Upadhi bheda, Jiva Ishwara bheda drishtihi. This Jiva Ishwar bheda drishti यावत पर्यंतम तिष्ठति, जब तक रहती है, यावत पर्यंतम, as long as it remains, तावत पर्यंतम, तब तक, जन्म मरण आदि रूप संसारः न निवर्तते. जब तक ये जीव ईश्वर भेद दृष्टि रहती है, तब तक जन्म मरण आदि means janma, what are the shadvikaras? Asti jayate vardate viparinamate apakshiyate vinashyate. This 5 6 states, janma marana adi, in between all of, between the birth and the death, whatever goes through, that samsaraha na nivartate, does not end, is not withdrawn, does not dissolve. Dissolve would be the right word. It does not dissolve. It does not get rectified. It does not get destroyed. It does not get diminished. It remains in the form of Janma Marana. In that form, it remains. Tasmat Karanat. Because of that, na jiva ishwarayoho bheda buddhihi swikarya. Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, does not accept jiva and ishwara bheda buddhi. It does not accept. So what about all the upasanas and karmas here? The whole prakarnam is ईश्वर अर्पणम. तो ईश्वर तो accept करना पड़ेगा. अगर आप ईश्वर accept नहीं करोगे तो आप ईश्वर अर्पण कैसे करोगे? That ईश्वर acceptance is given only as a starting point, as a support, as a starting point, because we already have a bhed. Bhed is already seen in us. Utilizing that bhed, directing that bhed in a way that you can come to recognize the swarupam of Jiva and Ishvara is only Upadhi bhed, not Swarupa bhed. Swarupam is Brahman. If I recognize my Swarupam as Brahman, it is possible, it is only then everything is dissolved. Samsara gets dissolved. This is the second portion. There were a few, I think I've picked up a wrong slide. I don't know why. There were 2 more points, but we'll leave it here. Is this clear? Now we'll come back to the verse.
It's like a mathematical calculation.
It is absolutely. Looks like a mathematical calculation, but what is the main important thing? It drives home the point. What is this point? Jnani is not deluded by ahankar. Why? Because he has Atma Buddhi. Having Atma Buddhi, he is able to see how the whole, even if it's a model, it helps in discernment that you are separate from this whole jagat. यहाँ पे जो हो रहा है इन सब से आत्मा व्यतिरेकः, it's separate from it. So guna guneshu vartante. Now each of those sense perceptions, that's a slide that is missing here. I don't know where is that now. The sattvic component of Akash gives you a sense of hearing. The panchikaranam of those, but its own sattvic component becomes the sound. Vishaya of the इंद्रिय अपने अपने विषयों में रहती है. बांध कौन रहा है उसको? I'll repeat this. If you have understood this whole, you'll get the answer. The sattvic component of the tanmatra gave us the sense of hearing. Modified gives us the organ, vishay, this organ of hearing. Sound you can hear. बांध दोनों को क्या रहा है?
अहंकार,
अंतकरण,
Not ahankar, no, that would be antakarnam.
Antakarna?
The same thing, antakar, ahankar, antakarnam. What is the guna?
Um,
Let me see, why have I missed out?
Tamas?
Tamas is the gross form, not the Vishaya.
Buddhi?
What is the guna? What is the guna of hearing? आकाश किस गुण से बना है?
Maya? Maya?
माया
Satya?
के सत्व. अभी we just did no? माया का सात्विक component is hearing. What can it hear? Sound. That sound that it can contact, what binds them both is sattva. गुण एक ही है, इसलिए इनका व्यापार है, इसलिए इनका व्यवहार है. आंख, where did the sense of seeing come from? Which guna?
Fire.
Fire. And what can you see? Color.
Color
With
and form.
form, with the help of light. Light is fire. Guna guneshu vartante. That's the important point. Each guna abides only, what binds them, वो उसी रास्ते चल सकती है. हर इंद्रिया उसी रास्ते पे अपने विषयों की तरफ जाती है जिस गुणों से वो दोनों बने हुए हैं, और उसके अलावा कहीं नहीं जा सकती. Which means my eyes cannot hear, my ear cannot see, my tongue cannot see, etc. Gunas remain interacting in their respective gunas. One who knows this, he does not get attached to this entire jagat of guna guneshu. Normally people would, because these are characteristics also, like I said, tiger will be ferocious, cow will be meek. Normally we understand that as guna guneshu. But if you look a little shastrically, from the first level of understanding, if you move a little more deeper, here you understand guna guneshu vartante means the sense organs and the sense objects. Okay, let me put this in English for more clarity. The sense organs and sense objects are related, joined, are experienceable because of their common composition of gunas. The predominant what there is. In the gross world, आंख आपकी वही देखती है जो फायर प्रीडोमिनेंट था, उसके बाकी 4 हिस्से थे. So each of this experience of the gross world is coming because what keeps them connected and tied is your gunas. One who knows this, that tattvavit. Shankara says, Kasya tattvavit? Who is that? What sort of a tattvavit? What does he know? What is known by him? Guna karma vibhagayoho. Guna vibhagasya karma vibhagayam. गुण में से कर्म है एक इस प्रकार का विभाग. Whatever you are seeing comes from its respective gunas. That is the one who knows this is tattvavit. Gunaha karnatmakaha guneshu vishayatmakeshu. This is what we just tried to understand. Gunaha karna atmak are the causes. Karna Atmaka, of the nature of being a cause. Guneshu means Vishayatmakeshu. It is of the nature of being the sense objects. Vishay, un gunon ka vishay. So, gunas as causes relate to, abide in their respective sense objects. Na Atma, gunas do not interact with Atma. इति मत्वा, इस प्रकार जानता हुआ जो है, न सज्जते, सक्तिम न करोति. So he doesn't get attached. वो उसके साथ जुड़ता नहीं फिर. When you know that, when you are willfully, as an experiment, just very mild, maybe it can help understand. If I say I am now going to think about something, something, anything, I close my eyes just to say I'm thinking about something, or I'm just observing the thoughts that come. Let the thoughts come. I'll just observe. When you have consciously chosen to let the thoughts come, you see a different attitude you have. You're not, you know that you are thinking. आपके अंदर उतना वेग, उतना जुड़ाव नहीं रहता. But when, because of a reaction, you have thoughts, what happens? Automatically, there is
emotional connect.
There is an emotional reaction, there's an emotional connect. जुड़ जाते हो आप उन thoughts के साथ, which Shastra says is आपके गुणों से हैं वो. All thoughts are originating from gunas, and gunas are not your gunas. They are specific to you by your past. That is okay. But gunas is not individual. In fact, the whole portion is to understand that you are not this guna. Guna samuh nahi hai aap. Iti matva na sajjate. He does not get attached. Is that clear? I think we'll continue tomorrow a little more.
I think it's the story of that sadhu. I can relate to it now. You had told us a story, right? There was a sadhu and there were some of his followers. So one person spat on him and he didn't get impacted by it. But his followers got very impacted. So maybe it's that I can kind of relate to what
That's right.
he did.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So when you know this, he says, and I think through this other commentary we'll get a little more details, but the difference is 27 and 28 verse. What are they saying? The one who is not knowing this difference of guna guneshu vartante, वो उन गुणों के साथ जुड़ के, now you see the upadhi there, avidya upadhi. जीव अपने आप को कहता है ईश्वर भेदः है, अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा, ये मैं हूं, ऐसी बुद्धि से अपने आप को ये करता हुआ मानता है. That's the difference. He says I am doing, I am this, I am feeling, I सब आत्मा पे आरोपित करता है. जीव बुद्धि आत्मा पे आरोपित करता है, which means doesn't recognize Atma as Atma. Contrast of it is, जो तत्वविद है वो ये आरोपण नहीं करता कि मैं करता हूं, because he sees gunas guneshu vartante. Okay. we'll end the class here. We can do this a little. Should I? There is a certain portion here. I think I should leave you here. This seems to have. It's very beautiful. Let's do this tomorrow. Very fresh. Further. This is in itself a complete portion. Is this clear, or did this kind of confuse you a little? The idea was to give you clarity.
The flow seems to be clear, like how Sattva is the whole thing, and then further Rajas and Tamas, I think.
Yeah. So you see, we just understand the whole thing. Prakriti ke gun hai. So what does a jnani know? Prakriti abides in Prakriti. प्रकृति के उसको रोक नहीं सकते आप. उसके गुणों की गति है, उसकी शक्ति है. ये शक्ति ब्रह्मन है. So all this that we see, we can know and do and all this stuff, ये शक्ति ब्रह्मन है. Therefore, तत्वविद ब्रह्मनिष्ठ हो जाता है. And जो हो रहा है वो होने देता है. Non-interfering. Okay, I think I'll stop the class here today.
He's non-interfering, but he still continues to do his actions on dharma.
That's right. Akarta, he doesn't become a karta.
Right.
Kartritva buddhi is what is samsar janya. It gives birth to samsar. वो ब्रह्मनिष्ठ जो करना है कर रहा है प्रारब्धवश. सबके प्रारब्ध में अर्जुन की जैसे लड़ाई थोड़ी लिखी है. Everybody's duty is not to fight a war.
Correct.
So whatever our respective duties are, Janaka's duty was to rule the kingdom. So he continued ruling the kingdom
To set an example.
for others. So ज्ञानी ऐसे कर्म करता है. Can we conclude, please?
हाँ जी, मैं शुरू करता हूँ. ओम सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषाः. गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम्. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः. पृथ्वी सस्यशालिनी. देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः. ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
So
Recording has stopped.
everyone.
Deepti ji, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad, Dipti ji.
The broadcast of Facebook Live has
Aditi
stopped.
ji,
हाँ जी.
just one little doubt. जैसे